Alright friends, so today we are going to be using our rainbow order again when we paint in the rows of our rainbow. So for this rainbow that we started last time, we were using oil pastel and we were working on rainbow order, and we learned the name of our little leprechaun character, Roy G. Biv. And so each one of those letters of his name stands for the first letter of the color. So Roy is R for red, O for orange, Y for yellow, G is of course for green, and Biv is B for blue, I for indigo, and V for violet. Now we did not have an indigo colored oil pastel, so we went from blue straight to purple or violet. So today we are going to be using watercolor paints, and we're going to paint in each one of our rows of our rainbow. And so we will start by getting our paintbrush wet. We'll touch the inside of the water bucket so the extra drips run back down inside here, and then we're ready to get our first color. We're going to start with red. So I'm going to get some red paint just by touching the top of the paint lightly, and I'm going to paint red right in the middle of those two red stripes. Remember, we started with red, and so we needed to make two in order to give us a line to paint in between. Our red was the only one that we did two rows of that color. So we are just getting a little bit more paint when our paintbrush starts to get dry. And our paintbrush should always have a nice slick hairdo. It should never have crazy wild hair. Once our paintbrush gets dry, we're going to get a little bit more water, get all those extra drips off again by touching the inside of the water bucket, and then getting a little bit more paint and painting in that row. Just like this. Now, once we are done with that color, we're going to rinse out and we're going to move on to the next. So after red, our next color will be orange. So we're going to get some orange paint, just touching the top lightly. Again, nice neat hairdo on our paintbrush, and we're going to paint in our next row of our rainbow with our orange paint. Once our paintbrush starts to get dry, we're going to get more water, get the drips out, more paint, and keep going. When we use our paintbrush, we're always going in back and forth motions, never around in a circle. That keeps our paintbrush nice and neat. I'm going to get more paint. And go ahead and finish off that orange row. And of course, we're going to move on to the next color, which you guessed it is going to be yellow. So we rinse out our paintbrush, get those extra drips off, and get our yellow paint. So we're going to paint in this next spot yellow, and it's pretty light, so you might not see my yellow very well on the video, but you will see it in real life on your paper. Sometimes the video camera has a hard time picking up some of our colors. So get more water, get the extra drips off, more paint, and we're going to finish off this row. And each time I do a row, I'm being really careful that I don't go into the painted row that's next to it. So I'm trying to stay right in the track here so that my red and my orange don't get mixed up, and my yellow and my orange don't get mixed up, and so on. Next one we're going to do is green. So I'm getting some green paint, filling in my green space. Careful not to get it in my yellow paint, since my yellow paint is still wet. If we get those mixed up, then they will run together. We'll have kind of a yellow-green color. which would be fine in a different art project. But since we're trying to keep everything in a rainbow order, we're going to try to keep those separate. Next up, rinsing out our paintbrush, getting those drips off. Next we're using blue, so I'm going to get some blue paint here. And you probably will notice that as we're going into the center of our rainbow, we actually need less paint each time because our rainbow is getting smaller. Oops. Finish off the blue. Just like this. And very last one is our purple or violet. Purple and violet are the same thing, just a different name for the same color. So I'm going to paint in my purple here, just like that. Very good. And now we are going to let this dry on our desks for a few minutes, and then we will put it in the drying rack to dry.